right, everybody, welcome to the Work Hard, Play Hard podcast. Today I'm joined by a longtime friend, Dan Dixon, and he's here with me. Dan Dixon is 20 years in the real estate business. He has a unique background in that he's actually served, or worked in several different areas, right? So he was once a lender, an appraiser, and obviously now a realtor, and even as far as real estate goes, he's now the broker, actually, and been the broker of Remax for about the last 3 years. So Dan, when we talk about experience, Dan has a lot of experience and unique angles that he's able to see because, again, he's been a lender and an appraiser. And so, he's seen that side of the coin, I guess you could say. So.
I like to pretend I know something about everything.
I think
that
is actually a very good statement.
We've challenged,
that's right.
Lots of things.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
Dan's a great guy, just on a personal note. I've known him for several years. Very happy to have him here. So, just all around good guy. So, okay.
I've been thinking about that a little bit.
Have you? Tell me.
Well, our history. I haven't reflected on that in quite a while.
I know.
We go way back.
We do.
I was thinking last night. I was on the second floor of this building.
Yep.
In a cubicle, a
Yep.
brand new agent.
Yep.
And some schmuck. No, just kidding.
That's about right, actually. Yeah.
At the time, maybe, but you came and just knocked on my door.
Your cubicle door.
Air quotes for those listening, but knocked on my door and said, "Let's go to lunch." And it was. I still remember that. Still sitting in that cubicle next to the Ammon Childs and Wade Griffiths and the guys that I've known forever. Yeah. And it's been a fun journey. It's been a fun, that's a little bit more than a decade now. So
it has, and I will say, so we get this on the record, but Dan's a very loyal, good. He called me a schmuck. I was a schmuck at that time, right? I was just starting off and stuff like that. We both were, right? We were young in the business and stuff, and so. But Dan was very. Dan would introduce me to other realtors, like, "Hey, use Ryan. He's awesome." Obviously with his clients and stuff like that. Dan's been great and really in helping me build my business. And on a personal note, he also helped me find a couple investment properties too. Yeah. So, which I still own, and I'm very happy I own them.
Yeah. Including the home that you're in.
That's right. That's exactly it. So
I have a little part to play in that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Dan's a great guy. We go way back.
I was just a few days ago with a client talking about an offer. And saying, hey, let's get, have you been able to speak with your lender yet? And it warmed my heart when they're like, yeah, we spoke to Ryan.
Perfect.
And I knew exactly where they were. I knew exactly, they knew what they, could qualify for. And they were in great hands. Like you said, we're friends and stuff, but I think we've used the same wording for a long time with partners. Yep. And that there's just a lot of trust. Yep. And so to me, in the industry, that's, more valuable than anything else. So
Agreed.
I appreciate that.
Well, yes.
Well, I appreciate. How many episodes is this for you?
How many episodes is this? This is
16.
16.
16.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm number 16.
You're number 16.
Joe Montana.
So, that's right.
All right.
There we go.
Joe Montana. I'll take it.
That's kind of an important number,
So I like you've done 15 interviews.
Yep.
To get your sea legs for interviewing and hosting.
Well, I've kind of been preparing for this interview.
Yeah, doing the B squad.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you're ready. Now let's go.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel, after, we started with the lower agents like Jimmy Rex and stuff like that. Right? Guys that, so.
Yeah, for sure. What's in it? I'm
unaware
of that guy.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah. So let's, for those that don't know Dan Dixon, obviously I introduced you a little bit, but tell me, what got you into real estate? Why did you pick real estate, or really, the real estate field, lending, appraisal, stuff like that. How did you give us a little, journey, bio here?
A little synopsis. So, I told my mom when I was in the 4th grade, she's like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, FBI agent or real estate agent. So at 10 years old, I think it's because I thought agent meant I could carry a gun. And so then it was attractive to me.
Love it.
No, but I told her at the time that she was, taken aback by that. I lived in the same house my whole childhood. My parents owned one home for 27 years. Yeah. I didn't know any realtors at all growing up. Yeah. But to me, I told her at the time that it sounded fun to help people buy their first home.
Sure.
That's something that was that for whatever reason there was appeal even when I was 10, and it still is fun. It's still great. I love it. So that was, I've always been intrigued with the real estate industry.
Okay.
When I got out of college, I was studying to take the LSAT,
Okay.
and I was going to be an attorney. We have a
I can
long
see that.
friendship. Yeah,
I can see that. Yeah,
because
you make a good attorney, actually.
Because I like to argue.
You do like to argue. You do like to
Leading
argue.
question.
That's right.
So I like to argue, and but then I'm like, as I was studying for the LSAT, I'm like, studying sucks. Like, I don't want to do that.
Yep.
And I'm not a great reader.
Yep.
I'm dyslexic,
Sure.
and so just why do I want to do this? And then I got a summer job right after I graduated college with a guy in American Fork doing loans, and at the time they had HELOCs, 125% HELOCs.
Nice.
I know, right?
Not asking for trouble.
No. I don't know why we went into this great recession.
Yeah.
125% HELOCs, and he was doing this debt consolidation program. And it was an interesting program where you could roll your debt in and decrease your monthly nut and,
Sure.
hopefully create a snowball effect and pay off your debts and get the ball rolling. That was the idea behind the thing anyway. And I did 2 loans for these brothers in Salt Lake. And they were recent graduates of the University of Oregon from law school. And they were in Salt Lake County, and they're making $42,000 a year.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna go through all the effort and work and stuff I don't like to do, taking tests and reading.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're gonna go through all that effort, and then you're gonna, it just, for me, it was eye-opening, and it just helped me change my, my trajectory at the time and rethink it. It's like, is that what I really like to do? Is that what I really want to do?
Sure. There's not this huge reward at the end of that really hard struggle, I guess. Right?
Yeah.
So.
And then I just, I like selling. I learned that while I was, that summer. I don't know if that's my favorite product I've ever sold. Sure. But I really enjoyed working with people. I enjoyed getting to know people, and about the product, I think in hindsight is a little weird. I like to think it was something that really did help people, and so that was really fulfilling, and so that's propelled me into just the real estate industry, of which I've been a part of for 20 years.
Yep. Yeah. Which you mentioned the attorney part. I think that's part of what makes you really good at negotiations too, right? I mean, kind of that back and forth. I don't know. You're very good at getting your offers accepted. I think. I think you do a good job with that. So,
thank you.
Which in this market is sometimes hard to do, right?
This is a challenging market to do that. Yeah, it's challenging to stand out. It's challenging to be heard.
Yeah.
It's challenging to get the notice of the person on the other side.
Yeah.
One of the ways that I think I've been successful at that is what you alluded to before, is just networking with other people.
Yeah.
And being able to know the agent on the other side, or know people that were involved in the transaction. I love when I get an offer from someone and Ryan Harding's name's on it.
Sure.
And you're working with the buyer. I have a level of trust. And so, when you have a good, solid network within our industry, you're able to work with good people. Joe Willis, we did a transaction recently, and he was on the other side. I think it was his brother Sam, but there was a level of trust. Like, Sam was working with the buyer.
Yep.
Ryan was the loan officer. I knew that deal,
Yep.
Was going to close. All the things that are out of your control as a seller, right? I think those things were more controllable, more knowable.
Sure.
Because you're working with professionals. So
Love that.
So there you go.
Which does make a big difference in this
Yeah.
market. So, let's stick on you just a little bit longer. Tell me.
Oh, of course.
So yeah,
Well,
I love to talk about myself. This would be great. No,
It's not uncomfortable at all.
So tell me. So obviously, been a realtor. I mean, you still are a realtor and stuff like that. But you have had a switch to broker. Tell me, what the kind of was that the logical step in a career? Was that like, hey, I want a new challenge? Was that I don't know. Tell me about that switch from realtor to broker.
Yeah, good question. It's not something that I sought after. I was at a brokerage for a long time, downstairs. They were great, awesome people, love them. But I kind of outgrown the space, if that makes sense.
Sure.
At least that's what I felt. I wanted to get more into investment real estate, specifically multifamily.
Sure.
And so I wanted to expand my network, get around people who just knew that inside and out,
Yep.
and be a part of a group like that. And so I moved to Remax Equity with Steve Bond.
Okay.
And anybody who knows Steve or the Fourplex Investment Group knows that guy is just one of the smartest guys in the business. Nationally recognized as an innovator, and to rub shoulders with him and his group was just an opportunity that I was really excited about. So moved over there, and we were there. I was there for a year, and he asked me to be his partner, and so I became an owner of Remax Equity, and we had that for about a year. Until the market really changed, and there's some things within our own brokerage that changed, but an opportunity became available to us to merge with a bigger Remax network.
Okay.
And so Remax Equity, 96% of us moved over to Remax Associates.
Okay.
And so I'm the branch broker of Remax Associates Utah County office.
Gotcha.
So there's 9 offices across the state. There's almost 300 agents within our network, and it's just a group that's just so dynamic and cool, and there's so many different agents doing so many different things, within the umbrella that's real estate, which is huge, right? Like we have guys that are pounding the phones 4 hours a day and selling 300 deals a year, and just knock your socks off guys. We have people that are dealing in mobile parks, and we have people that are new construction with builders, and so it just kind of runs the gambit of what is real estate. So it's been really fun to be a part of that group, and learn and be around people doing really just dynamic and cool things.
So what, as far as like leadership goes, obviously, when you're just, I say just a realtor, but when you're on your own doing your own thing, you're just in charge of yourself, right? So now, you're a leader, right? I mean, you're managing or that shop and stuff like that. Tell us, what makes a great leader, or what things have you learned about leadership, I guess, from that role? So
yeah, good question.
I know. Let's think about that for a second. So
it's tough. I think for me, like, words only do so much, right? And action, and actually being one of the doers, I think is just something that motivates me. And so I think most of the folks in our brokerage, we don't have a ton of new agents. We're really geared more towards the producing agents.
Sure.
And so while we have really good teams that are bringing up up and comers, and all are for sure welcome, I don't know if our group really needs okay, let's talk about the contract today, and kind of
the basic details.
Yeah, the basics. It's so I don't see myself as like the guy in charge that's knows all about real estate. I see myself more as when we have our sales meetings and other things, is a ringleader that leads a discussion. Right? I like to lead discussions. There's lots of smart people in the room, and let's find issues and talk about issues, and let's talk about it. I think that's, to me, that's way more fun and educational than having a single person with a song and a dance.
So what I'm hearing you saying is you kind of get out of the way almost. You're saying, hey, I lead the discussion, because there's people that are smart, and you don't have to be that guy all the time, I guess, that's like, hey, look at me, which surprises me.
I know.
I'm just joking.
As my wife's always surprised. I think I'm the shy type.
Sure. Yeah. You think that? Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. All right. Well, so that's good. Awesome. I'm glad you're doing well there. I'm glad you have a good team. We're in a complicated market right now, right?
Yeah.
The market's been great for the last several years. Interest rates have been low, stuff like that. Kind of sensing a little bit of a shift that's taken place in the last month or so.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that. Tell me your thoughts on.
I want to know your thoughts on this, Ryan. You're the host. You're the guy. I think let's kick this off, right?
Sure.
So I want to look squarely at you and understand what your perspective is.
Yeah. In
February, what were the interest rates?
In February, they were starting to get higher, but you were still probably in the 4s,
Okay, so January. Let's go January.
Okay, yeah, in the 3s, yeah.
Right?
So, yeah.
And what are they today?
Yeah, they're mid-5s right now.
So they nearly doubled in the span of 3 months.
Yeah.
What does that do to a market?
it slows things down, obviously, as far as like, I mean, well, at least in the sense of it makes everything more expensive, right? I mean, you know, that payment you thought was only $2,000 is now $2,500 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's gone up, right? And so depending on what you're buying and stuff like that, so it has definitely increased the cost of borrowing. Money's not as cheap as it was.
Yeah, we have buyers that were, you know, in the $900,000 to $1 million range, and what seemingly felt like overnight are now in the $750,000 range.
Yeah.
And you know, like $750,000 to $750,000.
Yeah.
Man, that's a lot for a home. But like, you know, in this market, your buying powers, you know, takes a hit.
Yeah.
And so we've really seen that a lot. It's like folks' buying power has taken quite a bit of a hit.
Yeah.
Folks have had to readjust their budget, readjust their expectations, and so it's been interesting to see it happen quickly. Like, I think we've all knew it was coming, right? Like, we've been talking about a rate increase for years.
Sure.
I think we wish we would have been able to do this over the span of 18 months or 24 months, gradually get there. But we got there, and we got there fast.
Very fast.
What felt like an overnight switch. And so, the market's in the state of flux. I don't think we'll know where we're at today for several months as far as like a macro level. When we get down and pare it down to like, your home, your situation, I have, stories and, things like that I can share that like of particular buyer situations that have really been affected. But I think on a macro level, it's going to take a little bit of time for the data to come in to understand really where we are, where the market's doing, and where we're going. In preparation for this, because Ryan, I really wanted to prepare for you because you're an intimidating figure.
Thank you.
I mean, you're a YouTube sensation, YouTube star.
I'm glad somebody feels that way.
I know I do.
Like, okay, good. Yes,
I know I do. So I was looking at, I looked at some stats this morning.
Yeah.
And we'll share this on video from what I understand.
Yep.
But, here's a graph. And on this graph, it charts three things. It charts median sold price, total number of homes sold, and also total number of homes listed. And we talk about a shortage in the industry, or of inventory, quite a bit. But when you look at this and you look at the number of homes that have been listed, it's relatively static, right? Like, we have a huge increase right around, the second and third quarter of 2007.
Sure, right before the crash.
Right before the crash, right? I remember those times. I was still lending. I was living in Southern California. And my wife was pregnant, and we, baby on the way.
Good time to have a crash.
Good time to have a crash. Those were tough times. And we had just nothing was selling. Right? There's credit had dried up. There was folks who just, it was tough. It was tough in the industry as professionals. It was really, really tough for the actual homeowners and people trying to navigate the market, trying to sell and buy, and especially the sellers. It was really, really challenging. So, when you look at the number of listings, it's crept up a little bit. So inventory is actually fairly, I don't know if that's healthy. I don't know, but I was surprised to see that number.
Sure.
Like the narrative that exists in the marketplace, you'd think that number would have fallen off. It would have been like almost zero, right? There's nothing available. And then you also notice the number of homes sold. The number of homes sold, we had a run up to 2006 and 7, the crash, and then it's creeped back up. But that line is relatively, it's not a hockey stick. Right? The hockey stick is the sales prices, right? Which is really interesting. You see the sales prices and how they've really trended upwards since we've seen a bottom around 2012. They've trended upwards, and in the last couple of years, they really, almost hockey sticked. Something I was thinking about is whether or not this is indeed a shortage of inventory. Is that really the problem? And then I saw this, I'm like, man, inventory is pretty consistent. One thing I haven't seen, and I thought about when I was looking at this, is like, okay, well, what about population? Right? Our population isn't static.
No.
And so something you'll be able to see, on the video as well is we'll overlay a population graph, and you can see just the population since 2000. We were just under 2.25 million here in Utah, And now in 2021, the last census data, it's covered up very nicely, of course, by that little button there. But I think that's 3.4. So we're about 3.5 million
Gotcha.
people,
So,
right?
you know,
So a million
over a
more,
million more, yeah.
right? And so if inventory is relatively static, and we have a million more people,
Gotcha.
okay, well, inventory's way down.
Gotcha.
We
Okay.
don't have enough. We don't have enough inventory. We don't have enough supply.
Because we have a million more people.
We have a million more people. I thought that was. Really interesting data. Kind of see it all together, and when you look at those graphs, and what are the correlating lines there? It's sales price and population.
Sure.
And so we see a lot more people living here, and a lot more competitive to own a home here, and therefore that puts upward pressure on prices.
And that doesn't seem to be changing, right? I mean, Utah seems to be a very desirable place still. You got, larger families, so kids want, I know we're trying to brainwash our kids, like, hey, stay here, grandma's gonna babysit, for you and stuff like that, right? When you get older. So, I mean,
Well, the home that you built, like, are you ever gonna get rid of any of your kids?
No.
I almost wanted to move into your basement.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's a good home. No, good location. We're very happy, and so, we probably won't move. And so, but it does seem like a lot of people are staying.
Yeah, as far as population growth, right? Net in-migration, we lead the nation and have for last several years.
Yeah.
If you look over a decade, we lead the nation. I think it was like 18.5% or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So we're we have a ton of population growth from just people moving in. And then you're right, as far as look at the numbers, as far as how many kids we have in the state of Utah versus other states, we're also up there as well. We have big families, lots of kids, and so we have we by ourselves generate quite an additional amount of people.
Agreed.
So we have both things pushing. We have we have more folks, bigger families, more kids, and then a lot of people coming here, and so that demand is certainly high. And so moving forward, right?
Where
are we going?
Yeah, where are we going?
Funny you should ask.
Talk to me about it. Yeah, tell me. Where are we going, Dan?
We're gonna have to cut that for the audio. But this is the dumbest graphic I've ever seen in my life.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is the graphic that you're going to share with your viewers / listeners.
Maybe you'll have to spice it up, or maybe we'll just say dumb graphic. Here you go.
Yeah, it is a dumb graphic.
Yeah.
But it's great, right? So what pushes real estate, right? The graphic says 4 things push real estate: demographics, interest rates, the economy, and then government policies / subsidies, right? So we talked about interest rates a little bit. What we really haven't talked about is where interest rates are going. All right, that's your
I take over this part.
Yeah,
okay,
this
well,
is where you go.
so interest rates in the near term, and when I say near term, I'd say the next year to 2 years. We're still projecting they'll go higher. So or stay generally in this area, right? So meaning they're in the mid 5s, low 5s. You're talking high 5s, maybe into 6%. But we're forecasting that if the Fed is successful, and that's a big if, right? But with controlling inflation, and so that's the timeline on that is around 2 years or so. But that interest rates will fall again.
Yeah.
So maybe come 2025, we might have another dip in rates, kind of thing. So obviously, no one's great.
That seems like forever away.
It does seem like forever away.
It's 2.5 years.
I was just going to say it's actually not that far away, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we tell people now is, hey, I know your payment's a little bit higher. It's not going to be that way forever, right? Get into the home you want, that you love. At some point, you're going to be able to refinance this. It'll get cheaper. So
yeah, right. So if the Fed is successful at what they're trying to do, what are they trying to do? They're trying to slow down the economy,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
And when you have a recession or not growth, right? That's what a recession is.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the world's falling apart. It means
No.
we're not expanding.
Correct.
Right. So
Correct.
like it's cyclical. Like we kind of want it on a big macro. I don't want it in my life, but like
No.
on a big level, like we really do want it. So if they're successful, right, that means what happens? That means the stock market might go down a little bit,
Yep.
right? That means
Yep.
bond markets may go down a little bit. So if the
Yep.
bond market goes down, what correlates with interest rates is the 10-year yield, right? And so if there is downward pressure on the yield, do interest rates follow? Mr. Harding, Mike and CEO.
So yes, they would follow.
So that's a 2-year trajectory. That's a 2-year timeline.
Correct.
That's interesting.
That's what's projected.
I don't know.
But as far, so that's interest rates then. So we're going to have to deal with higher interest rates for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
But we still have high demand, right? So
Right.
we still have people moving here. We still have people staying here. Graduating college, wanting to start that first job.
Right, that's one of the 4 factors, right? Is
Yeah.
they on this slide, on this infographic, they talk about demographics, right?
Yeah.
So supply and demand, right, and population,
Yeah.
right? So we talk about population. I don't think people are moving away from Utah. I think people are still coming to Utah.
Yeah.
We have, an excellent economy. I read somewhere that we are one of the most diverse economies in the United States,
Like that.
which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Utah used to be Geneva Steel, BYU,
Yeah.
or you work for the state.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's no longer that,
Yeah.
right? It's really diverse with tourism and with tech and construction
Yeah.
and whatever. It's
So we're
very
not tied to
diverse.
one company anymore. If Geneva Steel goes out, crap, everybody, half the valley lost their jobs. Or
That's
whatever.
right.
So yeah.
That's right. Like, the government's trying to build a big hub around the Salt Lake Airport, which that's more jobs, right?
Yeah.
But we really don't have one sector that's like, hey, this is where everybody works.
Sure.
And so we have a really diverse economy. So demographics, population, we're increasing. People are coming here, but that also is in the economy. The economy is really robust.
Yeah.
Right. It's not. I have a blue collar job at Geneva. Right.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the jobs that we just listed off. They're really good jobs. Right. They're high paying jobs.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to a guy he works in human resources. He places people with jobs. A little bit of a headhunter, but he works on a little bit of a lower level. And a lot of his guys, they're starting over 6 figures right now.
Yeah. Wow.
In tech jobs, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to Domo, and they're going to Adobe, and they're going to whatever fill in the blank company, and they're
Yeah.
starting at 6 figures.
Yeah.
Right? What was your salary out of college?
45,000.
Right?
And I felt good.
The guys that I refied in,
Yeah.
21 years ago or 20 years ago, they were making $45,000 too, right?
Yeah.
$42,000 doing it
Yeah.
as an attorney.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that scenario anymore. And so while $500,000 or $450,000 for a townhome, you're just like, that hurts my head,
Sure.
right? Right now, a lot of these folks that are in these tech sector jobs, they can afford that.
Yeah.
And so I think there is sustainability at the current price point. The question is, are we in a jobs bubble? Are we in an income bubble?
Sure.
I don't think that we are. I think that we're solid there. And a lot of people think that incomes actually need to increase. There's a few sectors like tech that they're quite high, but other people they certainly could go up some. So,
Which I think that's kind of what the whole COVID crisis kind of thing did, right? It showed the importance of those frontline workers, right? It's like, okay, maybe we need to pay them a little bit more,
Yeah.
because hey, the economy doesn't function well without those guys, right?
No.
So,
Yeah.
and I think you have seen wages increase, maybe not as much as everybody wants, but, because we still want cheap goods and services too, right? We want it cheap, but, okay,
Right.
we'll pick, so, but I have seen that started to rise too a little bit. I think it still has some place to go there, but,
that's good to hear. Yeah.
so, but.
I want to agree with you. So let's say yes.
All right, let's go with that.
Definitively.
I like it.
All right. So the last thing on the infographic is government policies and subsidies. Tax policies, right? So we have really the government. Uncle Sam has said it is good to own real estate.
Yep.
Both for the homeowner, but also for the investor.
Yep.
Right? They'll let you write off, the interest on your mortgage. They'll let you deduct it from your taxes.
Yeah.
They'll also, if you're an investor, right, you get to not only write off the taxes or the interest, but you also get to deduct the asset.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's 2 additional pillars. We call them 4 pillars of investment real estate. There's 2 solid pillars of tax deductions that the government said it is good for people to own real estate.
Yeah.
And so, and those are just the policies that we have in place right now.
Sure.
We've seen policies come and go where there's specific policies for people to purchase real estate. When I bought my home in 2010, they called it the Obama tax credit, right?
Sure.
So, we had, I think it was an $8,000 credit to go purchase a home. They're saying, hey, this action, right, purchasing a home, this action is good for the economy. It creates jobs. It gives people a roof over their head.
Yep.
It creates communities and neighborhoods and the feeling of the feeling that we want, which is why they have these tax policies.
Yep.
So, what will we have moving forward? if we do have a slowing down in real estate, what will the current administration or the next administration, what will they do to incentivize people to purchase real estate? Because I think they'll do something if they're going to continue to push interest rates, right? If they're going to continue to hey, we need to slow things down, we need to get interest rates not at an all-time low where it's kind of crazy. We want a more stabilized, long-term rate to bridge the gap between now and to when it feels more they've been 5% forever, right? Or 4.5% forever, or 5.5%, or whatever they end up kind of leveling off at. Will there be any incentives from the government to help folks, until we get there? And so I really think we'll see that. I think we'll see that in the next, 12 to 18 months. We'll see something that, will help homeowners or home buyers, and more than likely people buying their own residences, and not helping, guys like you who are rich and have many homes and abodes across the land. But no, to help folks that are buying their their real estate, their first home, or buying the home that they're going to raise their family in, their second homes, whatever. And I think that's a good thing. So hopefully that's something that we'll be pushing for. As the realtor, right? I'm a part of National Association of Realtors, and hopefully that's something we'll be pushing for. I haven't heard a ton of talk about it. I think we're super early, but I think that'd be something, I bet we see something like that in the next, 6 to 12 or 18 months.
You make a good point. I mean, obviously in the past they have done
Excuse me?
What was that? You
don't say this very often, so say it loudly for the camera.
Dang it, it's caught on camera too. You make a good point that in the past they have done that, right? And obviously if things do slow down enough, and that's the question, I think, is if they slow down enough, right? So if we, and that's the question. I don't know, if they will or not. I guess we'll just gotta see. So, but
what kind of recession do you think we have? So if you think we're having a recession in 2025, right, or before then?
So when I'm saying if they control inflation, the rates will come back down in that time. So I'm not saying.
Oh, got it.
I think,
so we'll
I think
have
we're
a
probably
recession
heading into
prior
recession
to that
now. Yeah,
okay.
I think.
Yeah, I kind of wonder too.
Yeah.
Like if we in December look back in Q2, Q3 were recessionary periods.
I mean, if you look historically, whenever the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, I forget the percentage, but it's like a 60-70% chance that you'll hit a stock market fall, crash into recession and that kind of territory, a bear, correction. So it's very likely we will probably enter a recession here, which doesn't mean people stop buying houses. Do you know what I mean? In fact, sometimes it's a little. I think real estate actually does very well in recessions typically. Lots of things.
We hear recession, right? And then we're all,
It's always a negative term, right?
It's super, it's definitely negative. It's not good.
Correct.
But I think we all have a little PTSD from 2008. We're
Correct.
lots of swear words, oh crap, right? Yep. Like it's going to be 4 or 5 years of really bad, and I'm going to lose half the value of my home, and this is going to suck, right? It doesn't have to be the case. There could be a leveling off, right? There could be a not increase, so just a slight dip, right? And that certainly could be a recession. I think that's more likely. Sitting in your seat for the last 10 years, like how many loans did you do that were no doc, no income, didn't really care what your credit was, kind of loans? How many did you do in the last 12 years? Zero, right? How many loans in the last 12 years did you have to verify income?
100% of it.
How many did you have to verify that they had a job currently and talk to their employer and said they will be gainfully employed for at least the foreseeable future?
100%.
Right? And how many of the loans did you do in the last 12 years that had verified down payments? So they were walking into it with some sort of equity, whether it was 3% or 20% or whatever it was. How many had to have a down payment of some sort?
I'd say probably 90% did a down payment. We probably did 10%, maybe 5%, zero down. Utah housing.
That's right. So Utah housing is, that's the thing.
Yeah.
But the overwhelming majority,
vast majority,
just
yes, of course.
Overwhelming majority, people have equity at the time of purchase. All right, and we showed this graph just a little bit ago about home prices, right? And if you've owned your home for 6 months, right?
Yeah.
You've got equity
already, which is crazy,
right? You get your prices increased since the the purchase.
Yeah.
So if there is a downturn, probably the real better word is when there is a downturn, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt nearly as bad as it did. How many adjustable rate mortgages? How many ARMs did you do over the last 12 years?
Maybe one, but
Maybe one.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
obviously
awesome.
very, very little. Yeah.
Right. So we don't have a looming rate hike for folks in 12 months,
Correct.
18 months, or 2 years, or
Yeah.
whatever. I remember I was in Huntington Beach, California. I was talking to a guy who was a loan officer, and it was before we moved to Utah, and he said the bottom of the market will be the spring of 2010. And it was like 3 years or 2.5 years in the future at that point.
Yeah.
And I was like, who is this guy, right?
Yeah.
And he said that is the date of the last ARM that I just did,
Mm.
because it was in the spring of 2007. ARMs went away.
Oh, and so that was the 5 year.
And so they were going to sit through for 3 years, right?
Sure.
We did a ton of 2 and 3 year ARMs
Sure.
at the time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right? So that's when that third year would go away, and that person, their interest rate would from this fixed 3% or whatever it was, would all of a sudden jump up to 7% or 8%. So my mortgage payment goes from $2,000 to $5,000, and that person they're not going to be able to afford their home anymore.
No, especially, and why when you're probably upside down too.
And they're going to be upside down.
So
right?
So wait.
Yeah.
What's
I
my
don't even
incentive
want it.
to
Here's
pay
the
this?
key.
Yeah, exactly. Here,
That's
take
right.
it. Yeah.
That's right. So when there's a downturn, folks, they're gonna, their values might not increase. They certainly won't increase at the rate we've seen in the last few years, but it might not increase, right? And that's gonna be okay. If they have to move, so some people have to move, they'll be able to move. They'll have equity in their home, and they'll be able to do it. If they want to move, they'll be able to do it. We're not going to see the short sales that we saw in 2007, because not only did values decrease, but now all of a sudden people I can't afford my home anymore, and so they
Sure.
gave the keys back to the bank. And so now,
Because the loans they were doing.
because the loans, so we had foreclosures, and
Yeah.
then we had people well, I have to move. I can still make my payment, but I have to go to Kentucky.
Yep.
Or whatever, right? Like my job is now somewhere else. I have to move. And so those folks didn't have the equity in their home. They had negative equity in their home. And so at the time of sale, they'd have to pay the bank off in order to complete the sale. And so the banks figured out a short sale system, and we wrote off a ton of debt that way.
Yeah.
We're not going to have that. And so back then that was a doubling down. It just made the recession just that much worse and that much longer, because it wasn't just the people who had to sell, it was the people the people that because we had been writing bad loans for a long time, were now in positions where they just wanted to give the keys back.
Yeah.
And it was we hadn't seen anything like that for 100 years.
No.
And so this one won't be that.
I was gonna say,
Right?
very different now.
It'll be different. We might not notice it until we're past it.
Yeah.
We might feel it a little bit, feels a little different, feels a little harder.
Sure.
Right? As a realtor, I might have to have conversations with sellers, okay, we need to drop that price, right? I haven't had that conversation in a long time.
Yeah.
Right? We might have to get back to some of the basics with real estate. It might take 3 months to sell a home, not 3 days, not a weekend.
Yeah.
And so,
Which for those that wouldn't know, what is do you know the average time for selling a home? I mean,
currently?
Well, not currently, because I know currently it is 3 days.
Oh yeah, in a balanced market?
Yeah, exactly. In a balanced market, what is an average term time?
3 to 6 months.
Okay. So that's
That's
normal,
pretty typical.
right? That's no. That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it's supposed to be. And what it has been is it's been 4 days, and the reason it's been 4 days is because I want 3 days to consider all of the offers.
That's exactly it.
I could have sold it in the first hour, but I decided to wait a few days. So
I want to see everybody's stuff here. Who's willing to give me the.
That's right. That's right.
The new car that I wanted too.
That's right.
So, well, good. Okay. Well, good discussion. So a lot of things to think about, I guess, with the future and stuff like that. With interest rates and the real estate market. If you were to answer, is it still a good time to buy a home?
Well, I mean, that's a great question.
Yes.
If I was investing in real estate and I had money and I wanted to do something for a year,
Mm-hmm.
no, that's not.
Okay.
It's not great. If I 2 years, probably not, right? If my trajectory is long, right, 5+ years, yeah, it's a great time to buy real estate.
Okay.
I mean, historically, interest rates are still fantastic,
Yeah.
right? And there's a chance, per the professionals that we just heard,
Yeah.
that I can buy something today, and if it pencils today as an investor, as someone with a long-term outlook, that in 3 to 5 years or whatever, I might be able to lower my interest rate, right, and lower my cost. So long-term real estate has always been a winner. and it always will be a winner. I mean, look at this graph, right?
Yep.
In 2000, the average home was, the median sales price was $115,000 in the state of Utah.
Would love to buy one.
I know, right?
That's right.
I got you one of those.
Yeah, you did get me
2009,
pretty
I got
close
you
to
one
that.
of those.
You did. Thank you, by the way. Thank you. It's worth more now.
a little bit,
Yeah.
a little bit. And then what's the number right there? What's the top number? The last number. What's the median sales price in the state of Utah?
Is that 500 I'm looking at?
$500,000.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So yeah, 20 years. Yeah, it's hard to imagine right now. It's hard to say the median sales price for a 2,800 square foot home, 3-bed, 4-bed home in Orem is going to be $1 million in 20 years, but it will.
Yeah.
And it might be more. So is it a good time to purchase real estate? Yeah, it is.
Because in the future, ideally we're all making more money then too, I guess, as far as, the average income. And I mean, which, if you look at it historically, which I guess that, I'm sure it was quite a bit less than too, right? As far as the average median income. And stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
The nature of inflation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we like inflation.
We like inflation. To it,
Controlled inflation.
I was just going to say, yeah, not Venezuela
Fettered
inflation.
inflation.
Yes,
just like our capitalism.
we don't
We
want,
like capitalism, but fettered capitalism.
Yeah, we control those monopolies, right? Keep those
That's
people
right.
in check.
That's right.
Dan, great to have you on here. Great discussion. Always a pleasure. Lastly, I guess, obviously as a brokerage, are you looking for realtors, and stuff like that, the right realtors at your place?
Always looking for the right realtors.
Okay.
Like I said before, most of our folks are experienced.
Okay.
I think our office, as far as our network is concerned, is one of the younger offices.
Okay.
That's probably because we're in Utah County. Utah County is a little bit of a younger area. Yeah, we're looking for great realtors. And so whether you've been in the business for a day or 10 or 20 years, whatever, yeah, we're always looking for people that, that want to be part of something, that, a little bit bigger than they are, want to come and learn and come and share.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely. We're looking for good people all the time.
Okay. You have that brand new office in Pleasant Grove.
Brand new office.
I've been
Pleasant
there.
Grove.
It looks really nice. I helped you bring in the foosball table.
You did. You're that kind of guy.
That's me. So
work hard and
that's right.
living up to your name.
That's right. I don't play hard and not as much, So
let's talk about play hard.
That's it.
I'm not ready to end this interview.
All right,
You're
go
ready
ahead.
to
What
end
do
this
you
interview.
go ahead.
I'm not ready to end this interview. Let's talk about vacation rentals.
Okay, let's hear it.
What's your take on short-term rentals and on just owning vacation homes for profit?
So it's gotten more expensive, and not just for the obvious answer, which is home prices have gone up, but Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac kind of caught on to what people were doing. Like, hey, I'm buying this as a second home, which it truly is a second home,
right?
But also I'm renting it out, right?
Okay.
And so they've added some hits to the rate where basically second home rates and investment property rates are almost identical.
I've seen that.
Okay, so that's one downside to owning a vacation rental now, is that it's just gotten more expensive. That's in the last, I think, 6 months or 8 months or so. So recent change, kind of stinky, right?
Yeah.
So as far as our vacation rental still a good idea? 100%. I think yes. I think like with most things, people kind of look at the shiny thing and think, hey, sweet, I can just make all this money.
I want to own a house on a lake.
Exactly. I mean, so there's always that piece. I own 2 of them, and they do very well. So I'm very happy with them. But there is a fair amount of work that goes into it, right? I mean, this is not a monthly rental that you have, right? So it's taking more time.
It's a job.
It's a job.
Yeah.
Right? But
Talk
it's
to
a
you
job to
about
get paid
it.
at.
You work hard.
Yeah, exactly. You work hard. Yeah. So work hard. That's right. I think I like that. But so I mean, there is work that goes involved in it, and I think if you go into that with eyes wide open, you're good. Okay, you understand it. But just know it's not like. I mean, I think it's like most things. It's not just I mean, we're in an age where people were buying Bitcoin to make a bunch of money real quick, right? Hey, I just want to make money quick.
Yeah.
And it's gone quick now, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the reality is anything that lasts a while, you do have to work at, and I think Nightly Rentals is the same. I do think it's a good idea, and we're thinking about putting together a class on kind of going through some of the things on that, because there's quite a bit that goes into it, but I do think it's still a good idea. But it has gotten more expensive.
talk to me about markets in areas that are good to invest in for nightly rentals. St. George is interesting, right? Like St. George and a lot of Washington County, they seem to change rules occasionally. So Park City Summit County just locked down all nightly rentals. Lake Tahoe. Like, do you want to go build around Lake Tahoe? Half of the lake is California. Do you want to be part of that government? Look, the other half is Nevada, controlled by the mob. Do you want to be that part? Where do you go? Like, when you look for a market, like, what do you have to think about?
Well, you bring up a very good point, because you do have to. The main thing that can kill you is regulation, and frankly, I feel like I'm a nice guy, but I've been in 2 lawsuits, and they're both directly related to these properties. Both properties had a lawsuit associated with them. So, and I won't go into the stories and stuff like that there, but like the point is making sure you buy the right property in a subdivision that either has the HOA or CC&Rs, or the city that you have. I mean, go into it again. I personally call the city or the county and find out, because sometimes realtors, not to bag on realtors, but sometimes they're just trying to sell you a home and they don't actually know if you can do it, right? So I would say, hey, talk to the county, make sure that like they're saying, yes, you can do nightly rentals, right? Because that's not always the case. Just make sure that that's the case, because you can run into some issues there. As far as where I buy, I look for areas that people like, that more than just the local audience will go, right? You could do up to Strawberry or something like that here locally, and that's fun, but like outside of Utah, who knows what that is, right? So I look for kind of areas that are a little more well known. St. George is not necessarily well known, but Zions is, right? And Zions is right there. So Zions National Park, huge park. The other one I have is by Yellowstone, up in Island Park. So again, kind of these national draws, in fact, worldwide draws, really. So then you're feeding your audience, your renters are a bigger pool as opposed to Utah County kind of thing, right? So
how cool is this industry?
It is really cool.
Freaking awesome.
It is an awesome industry.
Like this is all part of the umbrella of what we do, right? Both as a lender and as a realtor. And to your point of like having a professional on your side that can help you navigate the process, right? Understanding financing and how current policies and subsidies will affect different loan products, and also understanding like how the counties and different places want to control that, right? And you can't blame them for controlling that.
Of course
right?
not.
Like you look at Hawaii. Hawaii shut down a lot of nightly rentals. And they had the locals living there that could no longer afford like a normal 3-bedroom home, because you had a bunch of Hallies coming over and making their homes worth $2 million, and like that doesn't make sense. And so it's a real estate. I mean, what a cool industry, but it can be complicated. And so working with professionals is like yourself. It's something that's hugely important. So I like that conversation. I could talk about short-term rentals for a long time.
Well, on that note, I guess I'll say this, and then I'll wrap this up. But
we can keep going.
I know, and I like this. But like talking about professionals, when I bought the home that I'm in right now, we were bidding on the lot, and I remember, like, hey, I want to get a deal here, and so I wanted to go about $2,000 under, what Dan was recommending, and luckily for me, I listened to Dan. Dan's like, hey, are you willing to not get this house for $2,000? And because $2,000 is nothing on a large home, right? And luckily I listened to him. We ended up getting that home and or that lot, which we were able to build on.
But $2,000 wasn't like. I mean, $2,000 is $2,000.
$2,000 exactly.
But in the price point, if I'm right, is $82,000 and $80,000. Like that was the difference on the lot. Yeah. And so it was like, like that's more than it's a couple percent, right? Like if you're talking $1 million, that's $10,000 or something, right?
Sure.
So like it wasn't insignificant, but having a long-term perspective on things, right? And like you're in a position where you don't need to sell this in 6 months or a year. Like you're going to be in this house for a long time. Is this the right house for you and your family? And like it wasn't like I talked you into it, right? I just gave an alternate perspective of, hey, let's think through this, and you tell me what you want to do. And I think you made the right decision.
I think very much so. Which again, that's why I would say realtors are so important, right? I mean, or professionals in any industry, I guess, right? But like, you want to make sure you know what you're doing, and you want to make sure you have the right help, and I think that's valuable. That's especially on this large transaction. It's very valuable. It's very important. So, thank you, Dan. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Ryan.
And switching the interview on me at the end here. So. Thanks everybody for listening. Like, subscribe, write us a review. We appreciate those, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.